the Antisemitism Awareness Act. This bill was first drafted last year in the wake of rising anti-Semitism and, of course, October 7th, but it was brought back up and voted on last week to combat a lot of the genuine Jew hatred being demonstrated on our college campuses. My guess is that this act will either be vetoed by the president or the courts will shoot it down, and here's why I think that. This is basically a hate speech bill, which I know is a super generalized term, but we have to begin with a proper definition of anti-Semitism. There has to be some sort of relationship between those terms because hatred is the strongest of terms. It's not just disliking someone or something. It's extreme dislike or disgust. That's why Jesus equated anger or malice or even hatred to that of murder. It's that severe. It's that extreme. And this understanding goes hand in hand with anti-Semitism. This is hostility toward, discrimination against, or hatred for the Jewish people as a religion, ethnic, or racial group. Is that what we see happening in 2024? Absolutely. Based on this definition, Hamas is anti-Semitic, college students all over the country are anti-Semitic, and even some of our Congress members are anti-Semitic. Why? Because they're hostile toward, discriminate towards, and hateful towards religious Jews, ancestral Jews, and national Jews. There's no debating that. And I think that the majority of people are aware of this. However, we need to take a look at some of the line items of this bill, the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act. And it goes without saying, but I have to remind us, this is a piece of legislation. So we're talking about laws here. That means that violating Congress's defining examples of anti-Semitism is breaking federal law, if passed by the Senate and signed into law by the president. But let's take a look at some of the points in the bill. Contemporary examples of anti-Semitism in public life, the media, schools, the workplace, and in the religious sphere could, taking into account the overall context, include, but are not limited to, calling for, aiding, or justifying the killing or harming of Jews in the name of radical ideology or an extremist view of religion. Okay, with that line, they could have just left the end off of it. Anyone can be prosecuted for threatening to harm or kill someone. What does ideology have anything to do with threats or open calls for violence and hostility? Anyways, moving along. Making mendacious, dehumanizing, demonizing, or stereotypical allegations about Jews as such, or the power of Jews as collective, such as, especially but not exclusively, the myth about a world Jewish conspiracy or of Jews controlling the media, economy, government, or other societal institutions. I think that one is quite the stretch. Saying false things about a race or perpetuating stereotypes or even jokes, these things are not violations of free speech, and they don't fit the description of anti-Semitism or hate speech. Like this line almost, it seemed like a joke. I mean, no other racial group in America has favorable legislation like this. That would be like passing a federal law saying it's illegal to say Asian people make good grades or that blacks like fried chicken. I mean, you could even lie about a race. Like, I don't know, you could say white people represent the patriarchal oppressors or something. And that still wouldn't be a violation of the First Amendment. So this isn't off to a good start thus far. For that one, they could have just said, you can't say mean things about Jews. Now, just for the record, I don't think that you should spread lies and dehumanize anyone or demonize someone. Let no unwholesome word proceed from your mouth. Treat others the way that you wish to be treated. Love as you've been loved. But this sort of thing happens all day, every day. Let's keep going. Accusing Jews as a people of being responsible for real or imagined wrongdoing committed by a single Jewish person or group, or even for acts committed by non-Jews. In other words, generalizing Jews, basically. Like, if your neighbor, Yuval Zuckerman, always blew his leaves onto your lawn, so you generalize all Jews to be like your inconsiderate neighbor, Yuval. This is extraordinarily vague, but again, this is not hate speech. It's not anti-Semitism or a violation of First Amendment rights. Denying the fact, scope, mechanisms, for example, gas chambers, or intentionality of the genocide of the Jewish people at the hands of the National Socialist Germany and its supporters and accomplices during World War II, the Holocaust. Accusing the Jews as a people or Israel as a state of inventing or exaggerating the Holocaust. Again, I keep saying this over and over. It's a ridiculous thing that this is even a thing, Holocaust denial. But this is, without a doubt, some of the most severe speech control I've ever seen in my life. Now you can't even say the Holocaust never happened without breaking a federal law? We're not done. Just get a load of this next one. Passed by the United States House of Representatives. Using the symbols and images associated with classic anti-Semitism, for example, claims of Jews killing Jesus or blood libel, to characterize Israel or Israelis. This is absolutely outrageous. Under this law, no more crosses. No more saying the Jews sought to murder the Christ. No more reading of the New Testament. No more quoting the scriptures concerning Christ. No more evangelism or sharing the literal gospel. Toss Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John out while you're at it. Better get rid of Acts and the epistles too. I mean, you might as well make Christianity illegal while you're at it. And our so-called devout Christian Speaker of the House passed this filth, which tramples all over the United States Constitution, the freedom of speech, and the freedom of religion. Let me tell you all something. It is, once again, not hate speech, hostility, discrimination, or anti-Semitic to quote historical fact. I'm not generalizing all the Jews as guilty of killing my Lord, so please don't lock me up. But it's an irrefutable fact that the Jews despised, rejected, and delivered Jesus over to the crucifixion by their overlords, the Roman Empire. And that was only the case because the Jews weren't allowed to carry out executions under the Romans. And need I remind you that Jesus was in fact Jewish. What in the world is going on with this? And to think, three-fourths of our representatives voted yes to pass this. Love him or hate him, Matt Gaetz nailed his response to this, saying, "This evening I will vote against the ridiculous hate speech bill called the Antisemitism Awareness Act. Antisemitism is wrong, but this legislation is written without regard for the Constitution, common sense, or even the common understanding of the meaning of words. The gospel itself would meet the definition of anti-Semitism under the terms of this bill." I also agree with Allie Beth Stuckey on this one. She said, "We should 100% oppose the blatant Jew hatred we see parading through the West. We should also oppose a law so broadly policing speech, particularly biblical speech." Now, if I try to calm down and not get too worked up about this, I've been asking myself for weeks, what is Mike Johnson even doing? I hate the answer that I've come to, and please, if I'm wrong about this, please tell me that I'm wrong, because I would love to be wrong. The 118th Congress gives the Republicans a 4-seat majority as of today. 4 seats. And this is because 4 Republicans have resigned. It's 217 to 213. Mike Johnson, as the Speaker of the House, is supposed to set the legislative agenda and lead the majority party. But with a 4-seat majority, it will be incredibly difficult to pass conservative legislation. None of the bills that we've discussed today are conservative. Not the foreign aid bill, with the exception of maybe Taiwan, not the funding bill, not the Antisemitism Act, all of these things are at most destructive and at least negligent of the most pressing issues for everyday Americans. This November, every single House seat is up for election or re-election. 435 seats. How confident are you, Mike, that you'll at least retain this razor-thin majority? What if we lose the House, Mike? I promise you, it will be for these reasons. I'd rather you pass nothing at all, than this busy work that you've been doing. Now here's the deal, and this is the conclusion I've come to that I don't like. We must control Congress. Conservatives must control Congress to fix the devastation Biden has caused the country. God forbid, if the old bag of bones wins again, we can gridlock him in Congress. If Trump wins, Lord willing, a Republican Congress and a Republican White House spells a serious cleanup crew. Is Mike Johnson just playing along right now just to get us through to November? Is he doing what's necessary to remain in position for the necessary era of making America great again? Perhaps. If I'm right about this, then Marjorie Taylor Greene is making a grave mistake. And you see, this is why I couldn't be a politician. I understand this is a similar strategy being utilized in the anti-abortion movement. So Trump has to say what I don't want to hear in order to get into office, where he can then direct Congress to draw legislation that I do want to see. I just couldn't march out there and say, oh yeah, abortion is murder, but we'll leave that up to the states. So what's more important, taking a moral stance every chance you get, or playing the game to win? Thanks for watching this clip. Listen, I want to make sure that you stay informed on the news and the biblical response to it. So do yourself and us a favor and hit the subscribe button before you go. And then we'd love for you to check out WeTheFreeShow.com to grab yourself some merch and to spread the word of We The Free. And we're also going to put a video on the screen right now that we think you'll love. Now go and be that salt and light, and we'll see you next time.